One of the most persistent ideas that we have in our lives is the idea that I am this individual, separate self. So I want to take a moment and first explore, why do we think this? Why is there a real, vivid experience that we call a separate self? And then really go beyond the mind. First, to understand how this idea that I am an individual separate being, we have to understand that there are thoughts and experiences that seem to be attributed to what we call a separate self, what we believe to be as a separate being in reality. How does this happen? Because thoughts are arising constantly. We believe that we are the thinkers of those thoughts. Obviously, they are arising in me, so I am the one responsible for them. And here we start to create a narrative based on a character, on somebody who is creating these thoughts and who is responsible for them. But is this entity real? Can we explore it and see it? Let's take a moment together and explore this. Because there is a real sense of self that is undeniable, that I am. But am I thinking these thoughts? And am I responsible from creating them, structuring them, giving them meaning? Simply bring your attention to the thought and watch it come and go, appear and disappear. The question is, where is it appearing and disappearing? The quickest answer to say is me, within me. And where does it go to, if not within me, in the same space, in the same medium? Pay attention to that. Notice the temporary quality of a thought. Then try to trace it to its origin. What do you find? Is there a thinker there? Did you see a character? You see somebody with a particular bias? And if there's a narrative playing before that, then notice that narrative as more thoughts. Because a narrative may come up and say, yes, it is me, the human who has been living X amount of time and so on. Leave that narrative as part of the stream of thoughts. Watch how it is self-generated and it goes away. And be more interested in that which is prior and after the narrative has played. Be interested in that space, which you call you. What does it have? Does it have anything in particular? And if you see something arising, watch it as just another thought, image, idea, concept, narrative, and let it go. Go beyond that. Notice that there must be always a thought that arises as I see this, I feel this, I am that. And watch that thought, not as a separate being, not as an entity, but just as another thought, which when we go deeper into this exploration, we can call it the I thought. It is a thought that is imbued, that is granted the same quality as that which is present before and after any mental activity arises, which you call I. or what you refer to when you say I. Where is the thinker? Where does it go after the thought is gone? And if it has any preferences, if it is an entity in and of itself, how do we describe it? Where do we see its qualities? We cannot understand the mind with the mind. We can only understand it from taking a step away from the mind. And the only step away from the mind would be in this sense of being. That doesn't require a thought. And it's always present before and after a thought, a narrative, an idea, a vision. Words are not any good at pointing you in this direction. Or rather, they are good at pointing you but not taking you there. When we refer to words to point in this direction of spaciousness being, of spacious awareness, in which everything arises and goes away. It's like building a room to get into space, to experience empty space, an empty room. Why do we need the room? We don't need the words to point in this direction, where thoughts are not what is creating the environment. So language can only take you so far, and you have to experience the empty space of the room by yourself. There's no use in touching the walls or the floor to find the space. They were constructed for that, to give you the sense of exploration in that empty space. Likewise, when we point with words to this being, natural being that you are, don't allow another thought to come up and try to describe who you are. It's just another structure to point in that direction at best. When you do self-inquiry, forget about every other word and just watch what it's pointing at when you say I. Just like a room is built so it has an empty space and you can experience that empty space, in the same way we craft words that point you in the direction of yourself, which is empty of thought, which allows thoughts to arise and fall away. All words is art. We craft them in ways that point you in that direction. Like building a staircase that you go up and there's nothing else on top. It's to give you the impression that you're moving into space. It narrows your path into one single point. You go as high as you want in this staircase, and you find space. We don't need the staircase, and we don't need the room. Space is all around us. That which is manifested as a thought, as a mind, as a thinker, all of it belongs to the same space, which you call mundane you, I. Keep returning to that. Notice that there is no particular thinker. There is no thinker of thoughts. Thoughts arise, and then another I thought arises with it to say, I am thinking. Because only I exists. This space is not a real vacuum, void, or emptiness. It is full of life, full of I, full of self, which can only experience itself through objective reality. And it starts with one thought. Everything else is created by the natural movement of the mind. Keep returning back to yourself. This will debilitate this constant anxiety built on maintaining this I thought, because we feel that our identity is dependent on maintaining this I thought that works through memory. And it can only exist as long as there is memory attached to it. Without it, there is just pure being. Unconcerned, not worried, not preoccupied with anything. Just being in a natural state of flow. Nothing else. This is the only correction that is needed, and is what we initially call a thinker of thoughts. We sometimes call it ego or separate self. And eventually, when we get to investigate our minds, we find that it is an I thought. The closest thing to describing this experience is the thought of me. An image of me. But just like when we look at a picture and we say, that's an image of me, we don't think that's who we are. That's just an image in the moment. A flashing. And it can only be stored in memory. That is the only correction that is needed. Everything else is acceptable and permissible. Do this one thing, which is not even a practice, it's just a recognition of what it is that it is prior to thought and after the thought is gone. What remains, if not you? I hope this video was helpful as usual to pinpoint to that thought that arises that takes away our true personality, and it's always built on memory until it reaches a point in where there is too much to bear and it becomes unsustainable, and we begin to experience emotions and unstable states of being. This is the way in which we alleviate these emotions, by taking away the power of identity to it. If you want to get involved more in this practice and want to be part of the free community that I have in school, go and join so you can take the short course on the direct path that I have there and get involved with the community, join us, and start doing this practice a little bit more deeper. And if you want to go even deeper and want to consider working with me, then book a one-on-one call, which you can find again in the description. The link So we can talk, I can get to know you, see where you're at, where do you feel that you need some help and work in some blockages, which are very common in this path. And that has to do with meditation, letting go or healing, and finding what it is that you want to do, that you love doing, which is your purpose, your mission, your dharma. This is what I love doing with people. And I would love to see if we're a fit first to work together. And then I'll explain to you how we go through this process. Again, I hope this video was super helpful in this one particular important correction that needs to be made at some point and then followed through and repeat over and over again, as we have a tendency to associate with our minds. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.